You know,
So
Lynn,
this is about Mario, right?
it's all
Yeah,
about Mario.
Okay, good.
When you think about 1993, 25 years ago, that Mario Andretti had his last IndyCar win, you don't really feel that old, do you? When you think about 25, or do you?
Well, I mean, I do to a certain degree because, first of all, that year was also the first year I actually got to race at Phoenix International Raceway. So that was my first race here. And I had already done Indy once, and I remember people always said, if you can run Phoenix, you can run anywhere. Well, I hadn't run Phoenix yet. So, you know, that, and I was getting up there in years already for most professional race car drivers. So it does make me feel old. But what it really makes me realize is how hard Mario continued to race even after that was his last IndyCar win. I mean, he continued to race, you know, quite a bit after that. So that just made me realize how much he had done and respect how much he's done. Not just for his wins and all the stuff that he did, but how long he hung in there. Because I kind of hung in for a long time too, but I started late.
Right.
He started really young, and so, you know, age is a relative thing, but there are certain things that happen that give us pinpoints of age.
Right. When you hear people talk about Mario Andretti, they always talk about his competition as far as his competitive edge. He would do anything for an edge. Is that a fair way to put it?
Well, for sure. I mean, my very first time ever seeing Mario Andretti was 1966 at the Indianapolis 500. And I remember going to the driver's meeting and seeing him up there, you know, on those steps that they have everybody lined up, you know, for the 500. And first of all, he's a handsome son of a gun. And he is fairly short, which, you know, became pretty obvious as he was standing up there. But, you know, he didn't have necessarily the most successful career at Indianapolis, and there's enough stories about that. But I think Mario always was the intensity, which was always whether it was to find the edge or to intimidate you or to put you in your place. He was always about that. That intensity was always there, always there.
You just brought some memories back to me. Relive Mario Andretti, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, in Victory Lane with Andy Granatelli, the kiss, the famous kiss of the two.
Yeah.
Andy, okay, share with us what you remember from that.
Well, the pictures. I wasn't there that year,
Okay.
but the photographs of that, I mean, you know, Andy Granatelli is a bit of a dominant factor when you just see him, you know, and you meet him and anything. And so, but yet really, Mario is still the star of that particular picture, that particular image. And I think Granatelli actually made him that. I mean, you know, made him that moment, even though Granatelli could have you know, picked him up and, you know, thrown him over his head. So anyway, I think it's about no matter how big or little or humble or whatever, there's that moment when you are in victory circle, particularly at the Indy 500, but I think any victory circle, that there is a moment of celebration, no matter how good you think you are, you know, it's a very humbling but yet amazing experience. And so I think it was that way for both Mario. I mean, Mario didn't know at that point that that was going to be the only time that he won the Indy 500, but it was still pretty amazing.
How would you describe his personality?
Mario's a little bit like a Jekyll and Hyde, I think. He can be amazingly gracious. I have another Mario story, by the way, and I have a photograph that I might want to share with you guys. The first time I ever met Mario Andretti, I saw him at the Indy 500 in 1966. But fast forward a few years, I think it was 1980 at Ontario Motor Speedway. And this was all set up in advance that I didn't know about and Mario didn't know about. And it was at a PPG party the night before the race weekend, of which I was there because I was competing in the pro celebrity race. Mario came up and asked me to dance. And I have a picture of Mario and I dancing. And I have these amazing high heels on and a bit towering over him. And we had a very nice conversation, which I remember vividly, of which he doesn't remember at all. I asked him if he would autograph that picture, and he did, and so I have that photograph. But he's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde because he can be amazingly gracious and a little bit solicitous and a little bit, you know, just this sort of, and then he can be the most intense son of a bitch at any given moment. And so I say he's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde.
What has his name done for the sport in general?
Well, you know, AJ says he didn't make the Indianapolis 500. The Indianapolis 500 made him. And I think even though I've never heard Mario say that, Mario would put that exactly in those same words. But at the same time, because of maybe Mario's demeanor and his savviness and his way of being, that he did more, in my opinion, of what the Indianapolis 500 did to Mario Andretti. He took it to a whole nother level. I mean, he really made. I mean, let's face it. When you get stopped by a cop, one of the things people will say is, "Who do you think you are, Mario Andretti?" They don't say, "Who do you think you are, AJ Foyt?" You know, I mean, they say Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti is instantly, absolutely, positively connected with automobile racing and with car racing. Not just the Indy 500, but with racing and with excellence. And I think will always be for the rest of his life. And I think he's fortunate that the family heritage, I mean, he's not fortunate. Michael and Marco and all the other Andrettis are fortunate because they will always be able to carry that legacy that Mario established and has totally ingrained in society.